So without any further ado, now we would like to introduce our keynote speaker, Lillian Huyana Hall from Northwest Indian College. Lillian is from the Ion Band of Miwok Indians tribe, located in Ion, California. She currently resides in Willingham, Washington in the United States to pursue higher education at Northwest Indian College. She is in her second year, majoring in tribal government and business management while concentrating in early childhood education. Since starting at Northwest Indian College, she has been working with others to revive the college gardens. She has also worked with various Native organizations, such as the Intertribal Agriculture Council, to learn with and inspire youth and communities to reconnect with their traditional foodways. While always remembering to give back and never take more than what is needed, we are excited to hear her give her keynote talk titled "Resilient Roots, Traditional Pathways." Feel free to type in the chat your questions during the presentation, and they will be answered at the end. So, Lillian, the floor is yours.
Thank you for that introduction. Lillian, Hello, everybody. My name is Lillian Huyana Hall. I'm an enrolled tribal member of the Ion Band of Miwok Indians tribe, and I'm in my second year at Northwest Indian College, majoring in tribal government and business management. I also wanted to take a moment to do a land acknowledgement. We take a moment to breathe and connect with the land we are on. Take a moment to breathe and acknowledge the ancestors that inhabited this land before us. Most importantly, remember to acknowledge the original inhabitants of this land. Take another breath to acknowledge that our relationship with the land is reciprocal. Breathe into an acknowledgement of an inhabitate. Understanding that this land does not belong to us, we belong to the land. Just as a brief introduction, I am 19 years old. I've been a traditional Miwok dancer since I was about 4. I grew up on the Ion Reservation. Basically, my entire life, I was often on the reservation for about 10 years. And before moving to Bellingham, I lived on my reservation. I attended public schools in Amador County, and then before graduating high school, I attended a charter school and actually graduated from homeschool my junior year. I've been a Native advocate and community leader for about 6 years. I spent a lot of time traveling around the country and presenting to Native youth and just teaching them the importance of being a community leader and Native advocate. And I'm determined to leave a positive impact for all. Just so everyone could get a general idea of where the Miwok tribes are located, I included these maps. So I am Northern Sierra Miwok, located in Ion, but there's various Miwok tribes. Pre-colonization, the Miwok tribes were all up and down the coast of California, about 700 miles throughout California. So to start off, I wanted to introduce the Intertribal Agriculture Council for those that aren't familiar. So this is where it all started for me. I was a sophomore in high school attending American Indian Summer Institute at Sac State, where we go and stay in the dorms for about a week, and we travel to surrounding colleges and learn all about college readiness. And one of their staff was giving a presentation and introduced the Intertribal Agriculture Council. And out of the 30 students, I was the only one to sign his clipboard and want more information about it. And little did I know, the day I signed that clipboard, my life completely changed. I was not too involved with Indigenous ag, and I'm glad I am now. And so from that point on, I've traveled to Las Vegas, Hawaii, Colorado, Minnesota, Nevada, and all up and down California, presenting to Indigenous youth about traditional foods, about the importance of feeding ourselves and our communities. So in these pictures, the two on the left, I was doing an internship with the Intertribal Ag Council, where I work closely with the Natural Resources Conservation Services, the United States Department of Agriculture. And then on the right, I was presenting on a panel in Minneapolis, Minnesota, with a lot of other community leaders. I wanted to introduce the ABLE Club of Northwest Indian College. So the ABLE Club is American Indigenous Business Leaders. And one thing we did, our theme this year is sustainability. So one thing we did was we hosted a sustainability webinar for 2 to 3 days. And we had people come and we presented what sustainability means to us in our club. We did community cleanups. We do various fundraisers to help us travel to California in July to present in a business competition, but also we are applying for the College of the Year there. And so within our Sustainability Music and Art Festival, we gave away a lot of sustainability products. So like big products like the Nike shoes they came out with, toothbrushes, anything you can think of that's sustainable, we gave out at that event. And so it was a pretty good turnout. But that's just one thing we do at Northwest Indian College to give back to the community. I also wanted to introduce Resilient Roots. So this is a new club we just established at Northwest Indian College within the last week. And so I'm glad to have put this in there. We had an event yesterday where we had some men from the Lummi community come out and sing and just bless our garden. And it was a good opening for the year. I started getting involved with the gardens last year, and we have 3 gardens on campus: the Peace Garden, Moon Garden, and Sun Garden. So the Sun Garden is our biggest. The Peace Garden we just established last year. It wasn't a garden before. And we voted on this name after I picked my name or my title for this symposium. So that's pretty cool. Well, our goal for the gardening club is to establish areas all throughout campus where students can go and just, walking from one class to the next, you can, have food available. But also our gardens, one of my main goals for the gardens is to give to our cafeteria for the dorm students. And in these pictures, you can see just different activities we did. The one on the far right was just yesterday. It was my first time meeting President Justin of Northwest Indian College. And the middle picture, we were getting the dorm students more involved in activities. And so we had a planting activity where we went out and we bought a ton of, flowers and vegetables and had everybody come out and put them in pots with us. So when I first got introduced to Indigenous agriculture, I really had to ask myself and my family, so what is farming? What is Indigenous agriculture? What is sustainability? Because when I know in public school, when people hear that, they just think, oh, you're in a garden or you're just on a farm, and there's so much more that comes with it. So I included a picture of earrings that I've made. I've been a beader for about 2 to 3 years now, and I didn't always think about things like this, but now I think about what materials I put into my art, and dentilium, abalone, pine nuts, acorns, all of that is a part of sustainability, and we don't necessarily always think about that. And so that's just something that crossed my mind and that I wanted to include in here, because it's not something we think about every day, but we should, is like, what is sustainability in our everyday life? And with that, I just want to say Tangi Kamu, thank you everyone for having me as your keynote speaker. I wanted to kind of leave this with a Miwok teaching that's always remember to give back and never take more than what is needed. And I included my email in case anyone wants to reach out to me as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lillian. So beautifully said. I really love this quotes. Do we have any questions?
I would like to make a question. I'd like to hear more about your relationship and your tribe's relationship with the land, if you could elaborate on that, because I believe there's so much to be learned and shared as well.
Yeah, thanks for your question. So growing up, because I grew up a dancer, I grew up in a fairly traditional family, and one thing we didn't have was traditional foods. We had acorns, but we were completely unaware of our other traditional foods. And so throughout my years of interning with the Intertribal Ag Council and working closely with various organizations, I had the opportunity to learn a lot more about our traditional foods. And so some of our traditional foods consist of like elderberries and buckeye and soaproot and things like that. So yeah, I'm super thankful to have those opportunities to learn, but also to pass on that knowledge. And one way I did that was by establishing my own Native youth group back home. And so everything I was learning when I was traveling, I brought back to the youth group, and we tried to do some fundraising to take our whole group to different events, and that's some things we're still working on. But it's kind of like in the works because I live so far from home, and I'm a college student. I work full time, and so, but yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
We have another question coming up, which is, would you be willing to share a little more about Miwok traditional foodways?
I think that might be similar to what you just answered, Lillian.
Yeah, I can elaborate a little bit. So it's definitely a process. You know, traditional foods, it's not easy, but it's like acorns, for example, it takes, 1 to 3 days to completely process acorns and get them into a flour like we need to make nupa, which is acorn soup, or acorn bread, and whatever else you can think of making with flour. So that acorns were our staple food. Acorns and salmon were our staple foods. But yeah, we have a lot more foods as well. And I also have articles that I created. If anybody wants those, you guys can email me. I created those with the Natural Resource Conservation Services, and so I have those in my email if anyone wants those as well.
Wonderful, thank you. There's another question. Can students join clubs like the Resilient Roots even if they are not of Indigenous backgrounds?
Yeah, so Northwest Indian College, it's mainly Indigenous students, but it's also open to non-Indigenous students who want to learn. So I would say yes, as long as they're willing to respect the traditional practices and traditional spaces to the Indigenous people.
Yay, awesome. And another question coming up here, I think it's, is there a club at NIC where they teach traditional cooking?
Not quite yet, but that's something we're working on. I just attended a jam making session last weekend, I believe. But that's definitely something we're working on with the gardening club. It's in our plans and goals.
I didn't write that question, but I have a second question. Do you guys have festivals around the gardening and the Resilient Roots Club and using music or dance? And if you could explore that a little bit more too.
Yeah, so the Resilience Roots Club has just been established within the last week. So we do have a lot of plans for the club. But because we're just in the beginning stages, we're really just working on our greenhouse and getting plants in the ground and providing to the community. But for my goals for the club, I definitely want to host events or host little markets and things. That way we can still do like fundraisers for the club. And also, us speaking, me and the other club members speaking at events like this is one way to kind of branch out, and I look forward to connecting with a lot of you and doing collaborations with Northwest Indian College, with Resilient Roots, and other colleges as well.
Thank you again. Yeah.
Do you have any more questions for our keynote speaker?
We have one question. So, how would you describe Indigenous youth's interest in traditions and heritage?
So growing up and living on the reservation, I was surrounded by my aunties and cousins. And so we all grew up in a fairly traditional community. And so we all grew up dancers and started singing as we got older. It's something you kind of work up to. So as far as dances and language, I feel like the interest is very strong. I mean, it's there, especially in dancing. We're still learning our language. So I have our Northern Sierra Miwok dictionary, and I learned my language, and I have a little brother who's almost 9 years old, and I've taught him our language and our songs from when he was born, and so he's probably more fluent than me now. But so those are some things we do. But as far as traditional foods, that was the main reason I started the youth group, and the Intertribal Ag Council actually helped me do that. Start the youth group to have a place to bring everything back to, and have youth who are willing to learn and willing to become community leaders and really step up in those leadership positions. But I feel like it wasn't, as far as traditional foods and indigenous agriculture, the interest wasn't there at first, but I'm so happy to see it growing.
There's another question. How do you engage community members and elders in relation to your garden and food raise activities? Often at universities, all activities happen on campus and don't connect so much with communities off campus.
So that's a really good question. One thing about being at Northwest Indian College is we're in the Lummi community, and they're so engaged and so involved, but also we have extended site campuses. So it's not just our one campus in Lummi, we have multiple campuses, and we really all work together, and we're starting to do that a little more collaboration. It was hard with COVID, but this year it's a little more lenient. So that's definitely in the works. We do a lot of collaborations with different clubs. So like the Able Club collaborated with our Mountaineering Club, but also our Unestablished Gardening Club at the time. We were all doing collaboration work where we went out and we gathered, or we picked up trash for Earth Day. And there was one event they did, and it was the college and surrounding communities where we were picking up trash for Earth Day, and they created art with it, which was displayed in another surrounding community.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah, that was very interesting.
Exactly. I'm very amazed like how we can learn a lot from traditional knowledge. Like that is amazing. And I'm wondering like do you think resilient roots sometime in the future can help other global communities reconnect with their traditional ways of like, or like how some people, they want to reconnect with the traditional ways, but they don't know how, like a roadmap. So do you think resilient root can help with that? Like just get the starting points.
Yeah, and that's also one thing I really appreciate at Northwest Indian College is, the things we read and write about. It's not like your average university. It's not your average school. It's more geared towards your traditions and your culture, but also your ties to your roots back home. Not so much only the Lummi community, but where you come from as well. And they really help you tie that into your projects you do at the school. And so I feel like that's one thing that inspired me to be more involved, is because you learn a lot about yourself at this school. You learn from everyone else, you learn similarities and differences, but you learn a lot about yourself and where you come from as well. Amazing.
Yeah, that is amazing. One time I remember in one discussion where we were talking about sustainable agriculture and like SDGs in general. And we talked about like having solutions, that we need to create solutions. But at the same time, we were talking about how to make the solutions viable and like sustainable. Like how can we ensure that it's gonna sustain for years? And then a lot of people came up with the idea that like if it comes like perfectly tailored with the social and economical, and like it's coming from the community, it's like their knowledge, they're going to take care of it and they're going to make it sustainable. Like instead of copy pasting solutions from different parts of the world, like, okay, this solution worked in, I don't know, in some place in the US, so maybe I can do it in this environment, like in another environment. Maybe it's going to work, maybe it's not going to work. But if you do something that it's from you, like it's originate from the culture, it's originates from where you are coming from, that has another meaning. Like instead of having copy paste solution, we will have original, authentic, and very like tailored solutions. So yeah, I'm really inspired by your talk and and all the knowledge that we can get from traditional indigenous knowledge.
Thank you.
We have one last question.
Okay, yeah, we can.
Okay, how does Lillian see what she does, Resilient Foods Agriculture Dance, fit within the current dialogue on the Sustainable Development Goals? You are familiar with them because you guys have traveled around talking about that just recently.
Yeah, so one of our sustainable development goals right now is actually working with the ABLE Club we're creating this whole business plan that we're going to present at the National and American Indigenous Business Leaders Conference in July. And we're still kind of pulling everything together. We have a few weeks, but a lot of us work and go to school full time as well. So we do this on our free time. And our project we're developing is it's a sustainable product. And it's been a lot of work because there's like a group of 10 of us trying to all work on one business plan together. And of course, you know, the ideas are all over the place, but kind of narrowing it down to one. And I think we're still working on that. But one of the big ideas we had was a sustainable t-shirt business, and another idea we had was like having our own traditional teas and selling our traditional teas. But one thing we had to kind of break it down on was where we're going to harvest our materials we need for the teas. So I think that's what we're going to end up focusing on for as far as the ABLE conference. But yeah, that's one of the big goals we're working on right now.
Wow.
Wonderful, thank you.